You're listening to the Astromommy Weekly Horoscope, a forecast that hopes to shine a light in the dark, helping us all see where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Whether you're a first-time listener or a long-time subscriber, thanks for being here. I truly appreciate you being in the Astromommy community. I hope you enjoyed this week's horoscopes and card reading. If you would like to support the Astromommy newsletter, there are several ways to do so. Without further ado, here is the weekly horoscope. Sun and Pluto conjoin in Capricorn for the last time in our lives and enter Aquarius. It's a huge week. Weekly forecast for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024 through Monday, January 22nd, 2024. Good morning, friends. Well, I hope you had a nice week and weekend. I have some fun personal news. I started lifting weights over the weekend. It's only been one day, but it felt so good and exactly what my body has been craving, so I'm hopeful I will stick with it. It's exactly what this Mars in Capricorn, Trine my own Mars in Virgo, has been asking of me. Anyway, this is a big week. This is the week I have been leading up to. The Sun and Pluto will meet up for the last time in our lives in Capricorn. This is really important because not only will they meet up, but they will also ingress into the next sign while in conjunction. When planets do this, it heralds massive shifts in our lives. Since this is happening for everyone, these shifts may be on a grand scale. As an astrologer, this is very exciting. Okay, let's get into the astrology. All times are in Eastern Time unless mentioned otherwise. The weekly overview. This week, we have 3 important transits to focus on. The first quarter moon in Aries, Mercury's third and final trine to Jupiter in this most recent sequence, Venus perfects a square to Neptune, and last but not least, as I mentioned in the opening of this post, the Sun and Pluto conjoin and move into Aquarius together for a historical transit that will never again happen in our lives. This is such a big deal. Fasten your seatbelts, people. Okay, let's go over these 3 events one by one. Starting on Wednesday. The first quarter moon in Aries. You want to be starting something. The very first thing that entered my mind when I started thinking about this first quarter moon in Aries was the song Wanna Be Startin' Something by Michael Jackson. I have linked to it below for you in case you didn't just start playing it in your head. That is the energy with this first quarter moon at 27 degrees Aries, 31 minutes. You can see in the chart above the moon on the right-hand side at about 2 o'clock in a 90-degree angle to the sun at the bottom of the chart in Capricorn, co-present with Pluto, Mars, and Mercury. The moon in Aries has just separated from a trine to Venus in Sagittarius, indicating that things are moving along smoothly and with enthusiasm. Whatever it is that we are trying to attract or breathe new life into is coming our way or feeling regenerated. The dispositor of this Aries moon is Mars, who is exalted right now in Capricorn and is feeling good. He is not being stopped by any other planet, and so neither are our ambitions and agendas. Mercury is also in Capricorn, approaching a sextile to Saturn on the same day as the first quarter moon, and then a bit later in the week on Friday, he will trine Jupiter, which we will talk about in the next transit spotlight for this week. So Mercury is doing well here also. The Sun is only 2.5 degrees away from conjoining Pluto, so there is some intensity here and pressure as we get closer and closer to this irrevocable new beginning with the Sun and Pluto's upcoming conjunction. But all in all, this first quarter moon chart looks positive. So let's break it down in layman's terms. Whatever intentions you set or seeds you planted with the new moon in Capricorn a week ago are getting a lot of green lights and open doors. Things finally have the feeling like they are moving forward in our lives, and even though we are all on the edge of this massive change with the Sun and Pluto conjunction and ingress into Aquarius on Saturday, there is some forward-moving momentum, some hope, and a little bit of faith that is carrying us along like a steady ocean current, and it feels good. 2 days later, Mercury trines Jupiter and Venus squares Neptune. Things look good, possibly too good. In the chart above for Friday, January 19th, 2024, you can see Mercury in Capricorn in the lower left at the 8 o'clock position, and a trine to Jupiter and Taurus in the lower right of the chart at the 4 o'clock position, both at 6 degrees, 13 minutes of their respective signs. At the same time, Venus in Sagittarius has entered a partile square to Neptune in Pisces, which will perfect a bit later on Friday morning. We saw Mercury form a trine to Jupiter right before he stationed retrograde back on December 7th, 2023. Then again during the retrograde on December 18th, 2023, and now this is the third and final trine in this sequence, and they are both in direct motion. I described this last Mercury retrograde cycle as having a build-break-build feeling, the trines to Jupiter symbolizing the build portions of this analogy. Mercury trine Jupiter can indicate something going our way, getting a yes in response to something we said or asked for. It's like getting the grant or scholarship you applied for, having an abundance of ideas, and receiving good news or favorable feedback. It's a great transit that is positive and feels good. It adds a little pep to your step because things are going your way. Venus in Sagittarius square Neptune in Pisces is far more challenging. It may symbolize feeling like something is destined or meant to be, but there ends up being some self-deception involved that you have to watch out for. It is possible with Venus square Neptune to create a mesmerizing fantasy world or adventure that seems divine and perfect, but is it? Are you wearing rose-colored glasses? There is the caution to not be too fanciful with this transit because you could be setting yourself up for loss, deception, and heartache. Venus square Neptune can mean gullibility, disillusionment, and bottoming out of love or money, so it's not a great time to make any major decisions in our relationships or with our bank accounts. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is. On a positive note, Venus square Neptune could also mean having otherworldly or delightful experiences that strike a deep and meaningful chord, moving you in some way, like seeing a ballet or hearing a live orchestra. It's the type of transit that, if channeled into art and music, can be inspiring and evocative, and may even pique your imagination and give you fuel for your own dreams and desires. But the challenge is to be realistic and practical. I think the trine between Mercury and Jupiter, both in Earth signs, may provide that solid base that we are looking for to rest our convictions on. Just check to make sure the pool is really full of water before you dive in. You need to be absolutely certain that what you are seeing is the truth, so it may be better to wait until this transit is over to make any decisions in your love or financial life. And last but not least, we have the Sun and Pluto conjoining and ingressing into Aquarius together on Saturday, January 20th, 2024, a historical transit. First, the Sun will conjoin Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn, 59 minutes, for the last time in our lives. The Sun and Pluto together symbolize a death and a rebirth of something deep within ourselves. It's a time of year when we are faced with our very survival. It can indicate a deep transformation of the self or the trajectory in one's life sparked by an irrevocable change or a forced initiation into new territory. Dark shadows of our psyche can be illuminated, secrets revealed, or hidden truths or anxieties discovered. The sun is like a huge flashlight shining its beam into the nooks and crannies of our souls, expunging the darkness and drying it up like a piece of freshly cut fruit left out on a hot summer's day. We may feel exposed, raw, and vulnerable. It could be a time of great power or great weakness, and in Capricorn means it is a test of our structures, resources, and foundations. This great spotlight on our shadows may make us recoil even further into the dark, or we may bravely step out into the light. It just depends on our own nature and how we deal with this type of exposure. Then the moon forms a trine to the Sun and Pluto conjunction from her exaltation in Taurus, as you can see in the chart below. This is happening at 8:57 a.m., and this represents a peak in the energies. And as you know, when you hit a peak, the highest point of something, there's only one place left to go from there, and that is back down. How we start our descent is important. Are we going to be cautiously stepping down the mountainside or sliding down, the force of gravity pulling us? 55 seconds later, we will begin our descent, and it is not a ginger, light-footed approach, but rather like an explosion of air pressure being released, propelling us forward like a cannonball being shot out of a cannon. Shift number 1, the moon enters Gemini. The air signs are not slow like Earth. They are quick and gaseous, filling up the space instantaneously. Even solid walls can't always keep them in because they find the little cracks and small holes to slip through. The moon in Gemini is said to be peregrine because she has no dignities. This doesn't mean that everyone born with a Gemini moon is doomed, but it means that the moon in Gemini is in an energy that is very foreign to where she feels most comfortable. The moon is leaving Taurus, her exaltation, which is like her beloved vacation home, and has to travel through Gemini, this airy, dry, fickle place, to get to her domicile of Cancer, her true home. The Gemini moon is busy, full of questions, answers, and everything in between. The Gemini moon loves to be social, to talk, and is so curious about how others live, think, and experience life that she may try everything at least once. So we have this shift from a very passionate, physical, and practical place to a more mental, social, and inquisitive place. 10 minutes later, shift number 2 happens. The sun enters Aquarius. At 9:07 a.m., the sun passes Pluto and ingresses into Aquarius. Aquarius is an innovative, problem-solving sign that likes to come up with ideas that benefit everyone, including the underdog. It's the humanitarian of the zodiac. Aquarius is also an air sign, but instead of a mutable one like Gemini, it is fixed, and therefore stubborn, opinionated, and convinced that it knows the best way for everyone to get from point A to point B. It is no surprise to me that the first president of the United States, George Washington, was an Aquarius. So once again, we have a shift from a steady, practical, traditional sign to a social, determined, and unorthodox sign. The storyline may shift into one of rebellion, revolution, and freedom-seeking agendas. Fast forward to Saturday evening, and the moon in Gemini forms a square to Saturn right before the next significant transit. You can see in the chart above the moon in the upper left in Gemini in a square to Saturn on the upper right. Moon square Saturn is always a hard transit that means a reality check of some sort, or a no from Saturn that stops the moon in her tracks. It can feel cold, detached, unfair, or unkind. It can feel like being pulled over and being given a ticket for talking too much while driving. We are being checked for something by an authority figure. 1 hour and 24 minutes later, we have our final and most dramatic shift. Shift number 3, Pluto enters Aquarius. In the above chart, you can see the Sun and Pluto in the lower right-hand side at about the 4 o'clock position, now both at 0 degrees Aquarius, and the moon in Gemini at the top of the chart still in a square to Saturn. Because the moon is changing signs on the same day and in a trine to the Sun and Pluto, I think we may feel this shift first on a personal level. We could feel the energy change very rapidly, like something solid cracking under the pressure and releasing a lot of air. Then we may notice this shift in the world at large when the Sun ingresses into Aquarius and finally once Pluto enters Aquarius. Once again, we have a shift from the earth sign Capricorn, which is focused on tradition, structure, and rules, to an air sign, which is rebellious, unorthodox, and opinionated. Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, and forced change, is breaking the ground to release the flow of air. It could feel like an explosion of new ideas, new thoughts, new technologies, innovations, as well as a fight to cling on to the old ways and questioning the direction the collective is heading. Pluto brings up deep fears, doubts, and anxieties, and by going into Aquarius, our fears may circle around technology, AI, things that feel alien, and our natural resources like food, water, and shelter. I wrote a post last year about Pluto's ingress into Aquarius and some of my predictions, which you can read about at this link here. I am putting together horoscopes for all 12 signs about this transit that will be an add-on to the ones I put out last year. You can expect that post by the end of the week. Let's not forget that Mercury in Capricorn on Saturday will also hit 8 degrees 29 minutes, which is the same degree that he stationed retrograde back on December 13th, 2023, officially ending his post-retrograde shadow period. Whatever you dealt with during the retrograde is now done and over with, and you can go on to the next chapter. This is a huge day, and I can't wait to see what happens. Moving on to the tarot spread. Let's move on to a 3-card spread for the week that will help us make a decision between options 1 and 2. To get ready for this reading, pick 2 things that you are trying to decide between and have them in your mind before reading the cards. The cards will represent in this order options 1, 2, and what will help us make a decision. The first card representing option 1 is 13, Death. On this card, we see Death as a skeleton wearing a black suit and hat. Death touches the bones of a dead buffalo, his head bent forward in mourning. Behind Death and the buffalo is a deserted hacienda, a Spanish ranch, the door of which shows the darkness within. Low mountains peacefully grace the background as the sun illuminates the sky. 13 Death is about the end of something, change and transformation. It is about letting go of something in order to make room for the new beginning or the new dawn which always follows the night. Each day the sun dies and is reborn the next morning, a constant cycle that we can depend on. With this sentiment in mind, this card can indicate a negative pattern being broken or letting go of an unhealthy attachment or habit that is no longer serving your highest good. So option 1 is to let something end to create space for something new. The second card representing option 2 is 17, the stars. On this card, we see Grandmother Spider, who has woven the sky to the earth with her web full of stars. 17, the stars, represents having hope, faith, and a spiritual sense of purpose, having inspiration, insight, and understanding, feeling mentally and physically healthy, and being open to a new life, ideas, or concepts. It can also signify picking yourself back up after a time of hardship, loss, or upheaval, and renewing your self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-sufficiency. Grandmother Spider has positioned herself as one who brings together the earth and the sky. Through this symbolism, 17 the Stars tells us that we can handle whatever obstacles or headaches life throws our way, be they large or small, mundane or personal. So option 2 is to tap into our own light, self-sufficiency, and confidence to rebuild ourselves. And the third card representing what we need to make a decision is 12 Sundance. On this card from the Native American Tarot, we see a Sundance, quote, participant hanging by skewers in his back with a wand in one hand and a medicine feather skewered into his other arm. The medicine men and other participants sit around the medicine lodge, their personal medicine shields hanging behind them on the wall, and a sacred buffalo skull hanging on the center lodge pole, unquote. 12 Sundance first is about surrender, surrendering to the natural flow of events and outcomes. If we try to push things through with force when we are supposed to be letting go, the universe will push back in the form of delays, setbacks, and obstacles. We'll feel like we are swimming upstream. So this card is a reminder to surrender to the natural ebb and flow of life. Secondly, this card is about pausing and looking at your situation from a new perspective. The man on this card has chosen to participate in this ceremony. So this card is first a reminder to take a break and try to see things from a different point of view. Thirdly, this card symbolizes letting go of a way in which we thought our life should look and allowing the truth or the reality to be what it is. By letting go of our expectations, we are better able to practice acceptance and gratitude for the actual reality and realize that we are exactly where we should be right now. We may need a shift to our perspective in order to do this, and this could be as simple as taking a walk in nature or going for a bike ride, or as complex as participating in a Sundance ceremony. Whatever you need to do to get out of your daily routine or daily habits that are kind of keeping you locked up in the same mindset, do that thing in order to unlock a new perspective so that you are able to let go of whatever limited belief or way of thinking that you are holding on to that needs to be released. As the card for our tool that will help us make a decision between options 1 and 2, I feel this is representing a pause, an invitation to take a break from the normal routine in order to see things from a different light, and then surrendering to the simple truths of your situation. The opportunities around you are on the brink of coming to you, but you have to stop pushing or resisting the change. Resistance and forcefulness create energetic blockages and backups, and 12 Sundance is urging you to surrender to the process so that the opportunities and the answers you seek may flow freely to you. So to recap, first I would like to say how rare it is to get all major arcana cards. This means that this is an important decision that will make profound changes for you going forward. Seems extremely synchronistic with the historical astrology of this week. Option 1 is to set it down and let it die so that you can grieve and then move on. Option 2 is to rebuild it with confidence and wisdom, pick up the pieces and make something new. What we need to make a decision is to change our perceptions, surrender to the natural flow of life, and allow the previous structure to crumble or pass away naturally so that either way we can rebuild ourselves. In conclusion, for the weekly forecast, I would love to hear your thoughts and reflections about the cards in the weekly forecast. I wish you all a wonderful week of extraordinary change. I hope this is helpful. Until tomorrow, Astromummy. Thank you for reading or listening to the weekly horoscope. Quick links and resources can be found at the bottom of the newsletter. Today's cards were pulled from the Native American Tarot deck by Magda, Weck, Gonzalez, available on Amazon. If you seek knowledge and enlightenment, the Astromummy newsletter may be right for you. Side effects of reading or listening to the Astromummy newsletter are common and include joy, jubilation, delight, happiness, gratitude, love, triumph, feeling in tune with the universe, experiencing deep insights, reflections, and contemplations, a lightened soul, a lighter step, feeling awake when others are asleep, illuminated, enlightened, having spiritual experiences, noticing repeating numbers, animals in nature, or songs on the radio that speak to you, getting vibes, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsmelliance, feeling like you know secret language, biophilia, crying tears of joy, emotional literacy, feeling lively, stable, exalted, having an auric glow, or feeling like you woke up on the right side of the bed have all been reported. If you purchase anything through the affiliate links that I provide in the newsletters, I will make a very small commission. Thanks for listening.